people in these stories are trained to stay calm under pressure.
Paramedics, dispatchers, nurses, and soldiers.
People trained to explain the unexplainable.
But some encounters never made sense.
Welcome back to Psycho Society. Yo!
What it do, everybody? Glad to see you back. Tonight we're getting into some spooky stories. Something that doesn't just seem quite right.
These ones are of the first responder, hospital, military kind. Ones for people, like I said in the beginning, for people who you wouldn't think would. They explain the unexplainable most of the time. So, like, when these people are seeing things, it definitely makes you go, But we will start off with the more mild story, in my opinion. It is a military story. I have been in the Navy for 14 years. My first 11 and a half were as a Master at Arms, which is the military police. My first command was at Naval Station Pearl Harbor, which, as you can imagine, is full of potential haunted places.
Most definitely.
Yeah, I definitely say so. I have a connection with Pearl Harbor, so anything that pops up with it, it always catches my eye, so I definitely wanted to add this one. So the entrance to the Pacific Fleet compound is named Brosher's Gate, named after Lance Corporal Brosher, who was caught off guard one night, sleeping, by a crazy local and killed with his own sidearm. Inside the guard shack is a picture and a summary of the events. This is where my experience begins. For the majority of my 3 years in Pearl Harbor, I worked the night shift, and this one time, right after I reported to the command, I was assigned sentry duty out on Brosher's Gate. The gate is set back approximately 100 feet from Kamehameha, sorry if I'm mispronouncing this, highway, one of the main roads that splits the island from east to west, and the gate itself is a single lane inbound and outbound. Anyways, approximately 2 a.m., as I'm standing outside the guard shack, bored off of my ass, I noticed a car stopped at the light on the main road with its blinker on, getting ready to turn into my gate. The light turns green and the person continues straight rather than turning into the gate. I didn't really think anything of it, just figured it was a local who was going to U-turn but decided to go straight since it was so late and no one was around. 20 to 30 minutes go by and I notice the same car is at the stoplight again, but this time turning into my gate from the opposite direction. As the car comes to my guard shack, I notice it is one of the captain's wives, and she smiles, handing me her ID. After I gave it back, she reached into the car and hands me 2 cups of coffee. I thanked her and took the cups when she asked me where the other guy was. I gave her a sideways look and asked her what she meant. The lady said when she was at the stoplight, she noticed one of them standing outside, me, and another guy inside the guard shack. When she looked at her clock, she realized how late it was and decided to go get us coffee before she went home. I thanked her again and immediately called for my supervisor, as I was 19 years old and I didn't really know what to do. When he arrived, older local Hawaiian DOD officer, he explained that people sometimes see Lance Corporal Brosher inside the guard shack. As a proud Marine, he had never been properly relieved of his post and would forever be standing watch.
That is a popular lore in Marines, especially. I've noticed. They're not allowed to leave their post. They're not allowed to die without permission, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially, he was, like it said, he was never relieved of his duties, so he will forever watch over that.
That's one of those things that really makes you wonder about some of these things that people see and encounters that people have. Like, is it possible that this man is so dedicated to, everything he stood for that
I would say so.
Even in the afterlife, he's here to defend it.
Yeah. He lost his life doing what he swore to do, so why would he not do it in death as well?
That's one of the stories I definitely believe in. I think that it's a thing that's possible.
Oh, yeah. Most definitely.
Excuse me. All right. So what's our next story we're going to go ahead and get into?
It is one of a hospital story. This is not the person whose experience this was the security guard at the hospital, but it is told by a nurse that worked on the floor he is talking to. It says, not first responder, but I do work overnights in a hospital, so I'm going to go ahead and repost a few stories I told on the nursing thread. I have 2 stories not from my floor, but from the floor attached to ours that's much smaller than mine. The ortho floor attached to the PCU on the 4th floor, to clarify. It's only open once every week or two and not enough to justify a dedicated staff. So those of us who work the shared floor, PCU, take turns working with one CNA whenever it is in use. I'm not going to read the first story because it really wasn't too good, but I am going to skip to the second story, which is a better one. Find it real quick.
There's so many great stories that have to do with the medical field too.
Oh yeah.
It's like, and it makes sense. The things that people experience and the energies and the things that are trapped in those buildings.
Yeah. There's a lot of trauma that happens in these buildings, so it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, a lot of emotion.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, story 2 is not mine, but a security guard who's a buddy of mine. Whenever the ortho floor is closed, security has to check every room once a night as part of their rounds. This one night, my buddy came out white as a sheet. He said said that as he was rounding, everything was fine. All the beds were in the lowest position, all electronic powered off, everything was as it had been the last few nights. He then heard the toilet flush in the very last room in the hall. He panicked, thinking that maybe there was a lost patient. We get a lot of dementia patients where I'm at, who somehow got in. So he skips the other rooms and heads straight to that one to investigate. It was pitch black in there, but when he turned on the light, sure enough, the toilet was refilling. But there was no one in the room. So he gets creeped the F out, obviously, and leaves. As he headed back down the hall, every single bed was elevated, as high as they can go in full Trendelberg, and all the TVs were on the same staticky channel. Why is it always static?
Because it's like interfering with the electrical field, would be my assumption.
I don't know. It's always static. Anyway, so all 20 beds went from the ground ready to accept a new patient to 5 feet up in the air in full trend in the 10 seconds or so it took him to investigate the flushing toilet. He fully admits to sprinting out without finishing his checks. I don't blame you. I don't think I would go back to work.
That is an amazing encounter to see, experience. I've experienced a lot of paranormal things in my life. To see a bed elevated higher than I am currently elevated.
Like, and those beds don't go up fast.
Yeah, they're heavy. They're heavy. But to see them elevated, all of them, like it's an incredible power and energy.
Oh, the most, yeah.
Yeah, that's an insane story. I can't imagine if I witnessed something like I've had a lot of, like I said, a lot of paranormal experiences. Tracing back to being a kid, and even up to now, I've never seen nothing like that. I've been freaked out. I've seen some things, but never seen something levitate or elevate. 5 feet.
But he didn't even witness that. It's just like he said. He went down the hallway to check if there was somebody in this room, and as he's leaving, they're all of them, all 20 beds in 10 seconds. There's no way.
Yeah.
But you would see all those people. There would have to be a person in each room to elevate those beds.
Yeah.
But I don't even think those beds could elevate to that height in 10 seconds without you hearing. I feel like you could hear the whirling of the mechanics.
When you said elevate, at first, my first instinct was to think like levitation, like they were
no.
floating. Now that you're saying that, yeah, they rose.
Yeah.
Okay. My elevation was getting to me, and I was thinking, but it is strange that like we were saying, that in the medical field, so many things are so prevalent. There's always so many stories, man. I can't even count all the stories I read just today alone in doing this research. Yeah,
I came across a good bit. I was like, I don't know how to choose which one. Do you want to tell your personal story?
So I have quite a few. I had a story that I told in our lost tapes that we couldn't get that episode to upload.
Yeah.
That's a whole other story. And it kind of ties in with one of the longer stories that we'll tell later on in the episode. But basically, at the time, I was a DOT foreman. We were doing work. It was hurricane season, so we were called in, all hands on deck, to just worry about ditches and like any kind of drainage structures, get everything to flow properly.
Yeah.
Ahead of time for the occurring rain or the rain that was coming, to prevent like flooding and all that. We live in the low country, so flooding is going to happen.
Almost.
High tide, it's terrible. Anyways, so it was our last week. We were in the last street of the neighborhood. I go out, I start to hang out my door knockers to let people know, hey, tomorrow we're going to be on your street these days. Make sure all the vehicles are moved. That kind of basic stuff. I get to this one house. It looks kind of abandoned, kind of run down. It looks like no one's cut the grass. There's no cars there. I did see a note on the window, like on the front door. I didn't pay it no mind. I knocked on the door, put my hanger on it, waited, went on down, finished my job. Didn't think nothing of it. Next morning is a Friday. We're all super excited. We're anticipating, finally being done with this neighborhood. We can get back to doing our regular work. So we get on the street. We start working. We come into a couple of bumps, which that's to be expected on a Friday.
Yeah.
Everyone's trying to get everything done. We're moving a little too fast. But I started to get like real anxious and like real nervous, and I just had this like overwhelming sense of like fear.
Yeah.
So I just think too much caffeine, too many cigarettes, it's a hot day, whatever. I don't think too much of it. We started to get down the road a little bit. Now I realize that we're right in front of this house that had the paper on it, kind of looks run down, whatever. I started to get this overwhelming fear, like even more intense. I decided, let's go ahead and take a break. I let my guys take their break. Me and my lead man, we go flag the traffic. We're in a residential neighborhood, so not a lot of traffic.
Yeah.
So I'm getting a little chattery on the mic and everything. We're just talking. Didn't occur to me at the time, but maybe now I think about it. I was rambling on and stuff because I was nervous.
Yeah.
I started to get this really unsettling feeling, like I'm being watched, and I feel something like, you get that feeling when something's like burning a hole in you. So I turn back and I look at the house and I see this old lady. I see like a larger old lady. She's in like one of those moo type things. There's a blue floral pattern, got little lacy stuff. She's looking at me through the glass door. I can see all black around her, like into the house, whatever. Sun shining. Radio goes off. I turn my head to look at talking to my radio like that. And then I look back. The door's closed. I can see the papers on the door. The lady's not there anymore. I'm like, why? I just started to feel real uneasy. I started looking into the house, and I realized there's like no curtains or nothing. I can't see anything. Then I get this ungodly feeling, like I'm being stalked, like something is behind me. All the hairs on the back of my neck start to raise up. I'm getting the goosebumps. I feel like there is something behind me, and if I turn around, I don't know what's gonna happen or what I'm gonna see. I get this cold breath on the back of my neck, and it just sets me off, and I'm like, oh my God, and I just can't turn around. So I call on the radio, I holler at the guys, I'm like, hey, let's wrap it up. You guys done 8, let's go back to work, let's get this thing done. As soon as that guy comes to read me on the flag paddle, I run straight to that house and I start peeking in the windows. There's nothing. The house is like completely empty. There's no furniture, there's no curtains, there's no nothing. I go to the door, I read the little paper. It just has like a bunch of city codes and stuff. It just says that basically like it wasn't inhabitable, but it didn't have a specific reason. It was just all codes and stuff. I took a picture. I didn't do any more research about it. I felt uneasy all day. I just kept looking down the road, and I was just freaked out. And it was just uncomfortable. I wanted to do some more research in it, but after being home and it was the weekend, I'm like, nah, I'm just going to let it be. Like, I don't even want to know. So after that, any other work orders we got for that street, I gave them off to other crews. I avoided that area if I could. And shortly after that, me and you were riding in that area of town. It's probably 2 or 3 years later. We were riding through that area of town. I didn't realize I was in that neighborhood until it was too late. And I was like, damn, I got to go on this street. We go down that street. Now that house has been tore down, and it's just an empty lot in that neighborhood.
What's the name of the street?
I'm not going to give that out. No, it's out Pandora, actually.
Pandora Drive. Pandora.
Yeah, Pandora Drive.
All right, so getting into some first responders. This is one that I came across. Kind of gave me the little heebie-jeebies. So, I am a medic on an ALS unit. Was working my normal 1900 shift. Was dispatched to a code 3 cardiac arrest for a suicide hanging around 3 a.m. The call info only had that the patient was 34-year-old male hanging, and Sheriff PD was on scene. The location was in the more desolate farm properties in the valley. No streetlights, just dark, cold, and engulfed in dense fog during the winter. Rolling up, I see a man dressed head to toe in black. Black shoes, black pants, black long sleeve shirt, black beanie, and handcuffs sitting on his hands with 2 sheriff officers standing around him. A female and 2 very young kids by the house front door, and a broken rope noose on the ground underneath this oddly large, wicked-looking gray skeleton of a tree. He had a small laceration and rope burn on his neck, but he was very much alive. When looking at him, his eyes had little of the white and were black. He was quiet until I sat him on the ambulance gurney. The man was sobbing, trembling, and screaming that he can't take it anymore. As I was putting on our leather restraints on his wrists, I noticed he had deep, horizontal cutting scars along both of his wrists. He was only trembling now, as if he were scared. All I could feel was cold. The man was struggling and decided that tonight he would give up and end it all, leaving his wife/girlfriend and 2 children behind. This is where it gets freaky. I have never seen anything like this or heard of and experienced alike to mine. 3 years later, and it still gives me chills every time I think about this. On the way to the hospital, a few good miles down the road, we made a wrong turn, got a little lost, and took a back road. He was quiet and trembling. He wasn't fighting the restraints. He almost seemed to feel safer in the back of the ambulance while I concluded assessing that I got this bone cold shiver down my spine. I looked out the window and saw this house. Mind you, every house are acres apart from one another. Well, the house was okay, unlike the others. Looked normal, but next to this house was a big tree bush, and it separated tone. See, this, I had a really hard time reading this earlier. I'm sorry if nothing of this makes sense, because I don't think the sentence makes sense. But I'm gonna try to get through it. It's really hard to read.
That is the problem sometimes with like going and getting some of these stories up there, is the people that write these stories are not writers.
Yeah.
And some of them don't have the best grammar, which I have no room to talk. But yeah, so sometimes it is a little hard to read straight off.
Yeah. This sentence doesn't make sense to me, but I'm gonna try and start it over. All right. So, I looked out the window and saw this house. Mind you, every house are acres apart from one another. Well, this house was okay, unlike the others. Looks normal, but next to this house was this big tree/bush, and in a separate tone and position, this old four-door sedan was parked. The car looked out of place and was clearly separated from the house and tree bush. It was like its own place. It was odd and creepy. Gets better from here. That was the only odd part. I could normally see in the car's cab and the headrest of the driver's seat from afar, but this car was pitch black on the inside, almost if the darkness was coming out of the windows, because it was the deepest and darkest black I've ever seen on the inside. All I saw was the deepest and darkest black, and 2 neon dark blue eyes staring back at me a little above where a tall and big man's eyes would be in the car. Immediately felt the back of the ambulance get colder, and the goosebumps and hair on my skin stood up. At first, I thought it was a security light or a reflection in the car. As soon as we passed the house, the car turned on, pulled out, and started following us in the ambulance. The neon blue eyes were still there, and the cab was still dark as could be. The car followed us miles to the highway, still with the eyes staring, and deepest, darkest black in the cab, even with the streetlights. I could not see into the car. I was almost mystified by this and forgot about my patient in the ambulance and partner, but I did not at all feel welcomed by the neon dark blue eyes. It was almost threatening, as if it wanted my patient. We were on the highway, and this car still followed us almost 20 plus miles now. The neon dark eyes were still there, and even with the highway lights, I could not see into this car. It got colder. It started to feel as if it noticed me watching, and was watching and focusing on me now instead of focusing on my patient. The car then sped up and pulled up next to the ambulance in the lane next to me while we were driving, and looked at me. I was very literally 5 feet from this car and could not see into the cab from the window. All I could see were those dark neon blue eyes and darkness, but it wasn't looking ahead. It was looking at me. And in that moment, I said out loud, challenging it, "Go away. You are not touching this man. This man is my patient. If you want him, you will have to come through me. I am stronger than you, and I will not let you have him." As I said it, not even a moment later, the car and my ambulance split off as if it went on one off-ramp and I did the other. It was no longer cold in the ambulance, and my patient was no longer gray in the cheeks, but now his cheeks were pink and normal. It wasn't until after the call we got this patient inside the hospital when I realized what just happened. I truly feel and felt that whatever the deep neon blue-eyed thing was not human, and it wanted that man. I have never believed the paranormal or demons or spirits or anything wasn't hardcore science until I experienced this. I haven't had an encounter like that again, and I hope I never do. I do not know. I do not now, and I do not know if that man is still alive or what his outcome was. But all I know is what I experienced and saw that night. Yeah.
I know. I like to do that, Matthew McConaughey.
That's not Matthew.
No.
That's Owen Wilson.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that is a crazy one. In Supernatural, they had yellow eyes. I mean, that it is not beyond belief. I don't think. I don't know what all the supernatural holds.
No.
So I think that it's quite a possibility that something like that could follow, attach, have some kind of deal or something with somebody that they're trying to claim.
Yeah. Oh, excuse me. Had a burp.
But it is strange that it always happens with graveyard shifts and first responders. Like, is it because the energy is already heightened from working in an unusual time? Most people aren't accustomed to work night shift, and not everybody can work a night shift.
No.
Like, I've had to work swing shifts and night shifts, and it's hard on the body.
I definitely think it could play its role in some things. That sleep deprivation, the mind, like we said in the last episode, is a funny thing. Like, you go so many hours without sleeping and you can start to see things, but most of these stories don't seem that it's sleep deprivation or anything. I mean, it could possibly be playing roles in what these people are seeing, but I don't think so. I think people, especially people who put themselves in these situations where a lot of trauma can happen to them. There's a lot of trauma in the areas that they work in. So I think trauma definitely makes impact on the way those people experience paranormal encounters.
Right. Because it's more of the energy that's surrounded the places. Like in the hospital, if there's a lot of energy stored up in there from the tragedies and the things, and even some of the good celebrations of children being born and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's that energy still too, and just I think that energies match the experiences. It kind of opens up that veil or crosses that barrier to help these people. Also, we know the witching hour.
Yeah.
So possibly nighttime is a thinner veil.
Yeah.
There's not so much of the hustle and bustle. There's not all the other energies of all the other people and everything around, and all the lights and all the things that would interfere.
I mean, yeah, maybe. With, the way we've built up the world,
And then,
I don't know how much I feel that's true, because most, like, big cities are full of people and cars and lights, and people still have experiences there. But, I mean, I get what you're saying, especially in more rural areas. I could see that being a thing. There's not so much interference. That
right.
makes it easier for them to come across.
Yeah. And then also you're heightened on caffeine and maybe some other things to help you get through the shift, So you're already pumping, so maybe you're tapping into something there.
It's possible. I think we've got one more first responder story. I think this is one that you found. You want to read it, or you want me to read it?
I can try and read it here.
You can try and read it. You blind self.
Yeah, you gotta bear with me. I'm blind, and I read like a third grader. Hold this because well, I can't see it.
You still can't see it?
No. I'm blind.
You tell me to scroll, I'll scroll for you.
All right. So this is just a little story that I came across in the research. It's not nothing too extreme or paranormal, but it's kind of touches the heart and makes you think.
Yeah.
So the gentleman telling this story is a police officer. He was working a desk, and also he would work in the field if need be. It's kind of like a small town area. He was working his desk. A fire alarm signal goes off. Many years ago, the police department in this area used to have like fire alarms and smoke detectors and stuff set up in different places.
Yeah.
And they had a commission. Most of them were taken down, but there's a handful of them. So anyways, you can go ahead and scroll up a little bit. He got the alarm. There was a dispatcher working, so he decided he was going to go out and go to the residence. He goes out to the address. I headed out the door to the fire department when 911 rang from the same address. I answered. No one in the other end assumed no one was on the other end. I assumed they barely got to the call before passing out. I bolt out the back door and then hop in the squad car, radioing 911, calling on channel 3 that both police and fire can hear that I'm going directly to the house. Arriving just after another unit shows up, no signs of smoke, no sign of anything. An older woman comes walking up the street, pushing a wheelchair with an elderly lady, her mother. They live there and just went out for an early evening stroll before dinner. I tell them what we have going on. Nobody else lives there as far as the elderly lady can remember. The alarm was disconnected from the house years ago. Okay, so nobody else lives in the house.
Yeah.
And the fire alarm was disconnected years ago for as far as she knows. They don't have any alarm system either. They just keep a couple of smoke detectors and fire detectors. We do a walk around the house, go to the back door of the kitchen, and you can clearly smell gas. We turned off the gas at the main, set up some fans to air out, and find a cracked gas line going to the oven. Daughter said she spilled some coffee she was making before their walk, and she had to move the oven a few inches to clean it up properly. She probably broke the line while pushing the oven back. Nothing else in the house is disturbed, and both phones are on the hook. The fire chief shows up about 15 minutes into the call. He goes over to the two ladies and gives them both a giant hug. He's nearly in tears. The elderly lady in the wheelchair and her husband. The elderly lady in the wheelchair. Her husband was the fire chief for 60 plus years for that same fire department. The daughter and her. This is written really weird. It says the daughter. Her husband passed away a few years ago. He was also a member of the fire department. Never believing in ghosts or spirits, but the call made me think maybe people who spend their lives doing good are allowed by some power to look over their loved ones, even loved ones every so often. Yep. So I can't read. So hopefully she edits that up for me and I don't look too terrible. But I came across this one and it really set the tone. Like like I was saying earlier.
So I can't read.
But basically, like I was saying earlier, like this call came in, or they got the alarm, right?
Yeah.
So they got the alarm, and then a call came in. There was no one on the line, and he just figured someone passed out. So they rushed there, and then comes to find out that the old man that used to live there, and he was the fire chief, and they're thinking that, some supernatural, that maybe the old man connected some little line or something and got people there to help him out because he didn't want his family to come home and get trapped because she's elderly and everything. By the time they come inside, they get exposed to that gas. They might fall out,
or they go to cook dinner and
they got a metal door or something. A spark kicks off. I mean, anything could have happened.
It reminds me of it's one of the first stories I ended up reading while I was reading stories earlier. It was a shorter one, so I didn't save it, but it was another fire call. They were called out to a house fire, and the parents are already outside. They're in frantic because their little girl was left inside, and the dad's already got burns from trying to go in and try and find her. They tell him that last time they seen her, she was upstairs on the second floor, and they told her where the bedroom was, but they couldn't get to it. So the guy and his partner go in. So this is a double witness too, not just a single person had this experience. It was a double experience. Him and his partner go up to try and get to the room, but before they could get to the room, they see down like the living room area, like right under the smoke, because they had punched a hole in the ceiling to try and get some of the smoke out so they could see. So it had risen a bit, so they could see just like probably knee length. Like, so they saw from like the knees down somebody, what he described as kind of like like somebody dancing out in the smoke in the living room, olive slacks and leather shoes. So he's like, so him and his partner both see it, so they go down, they try and see if this wasn't the person who needed help, and it's like they followed these dancing legs over to a bathroom, like a hallway bathroom that was downstairs, and found the little girl crying in the bathroom. So they take her out, and the parents and them go, and so the parents then come to, or call, I don't remember how they ended up meeting back up, but the guy that was writing the story asked the dad if he knew anybody that had green slacks and loafers, and he goes in the house, comes back out and brings a picture of these two men standing in a yard, and one of them had these greenish olive slacks and leather shoes, which was his father, who died in 1976. So this is the little girl's grandfather saved her life, showed the officer, the firefighters where to find her.
That's awesome.
That was the first one I read.
Yeah, I read quite a few that were really good. There was a few really sad ones that I came across.
Yeah. When I was doing it, I didn't want them to be sad or anything. I was trying to find like the spooky ones, but there were a lot of good ones.
Yeah. There's quite a few. I think the longer... Well, no, we didn't decide to go with it in this story. It's been covered a lot in other podcasts. Mr. Ballin has done it before, but there's a really good story. Excuse me. That I enjoy about an elderly lady with Alzheimer's that keeps calling, regularly to 911 and stuff, and then she eventually passes, and then they still get phone calls, and they can hear her talking and stuff still, and then after the house has been no power, no one's been living in it for a long time, they still get regular phone calls to the point to where they have to tear down the house to get the phone calls to stop. It's a good story. And there's plenty of them out there, so it would lead me to believe that something like that is a possibility. I have a theory that something like that is so if you believe in simulation or matrix type theories, or you travel down those rabbit holes, what if these phone calls that people experience, because there's also a lot of stories of this, especially in small towns or different places all over, it's recorded that people get these ghostly phone calls. especially, or like places that don't exist are getting these phone calls and stuff. What if it's like old programming, and so it hasn't come, because it's always analog technology. It's always like a landline.
Yeah.
So what if it's just old programming that's just continuing to run a sequence that hasn't got fixed yet?
I mean, you still do have like people nowadays who get ghost calls on their cell phones. I don't even.
Yeah, but with that modern technology and stuff, it's a little bit easier to explain that.
I mean, I guess.
I'm not saying that all of them are,
Yeah.
They could definitely still use the phone and everything, but with it being the landline stories and with dispatch, sometimes it'll show a physical address, sometimes it won't, and whatever. Or there's like, there hasn't been no one at that house for 10 years. There's nothing hooked up. Like, who could possibly be calling? Yeah. But I guess you could probably still use modern day technology to ghost a landline.
I mean, yeah, maybe. Or there's some kind of program that maybe it makes it look like a landline.
Telephone scammers got all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, right?
Those are the worst calls, by the way.
Yeah. I get so many.
Don't answer the phone.
Hey,
if you guys out there or happen to be any kind of first responders, or anyone in your family is a first responder, and you guys got some stories, man, drop them down in the comments. Email us. Our email's in the description.
Most definitely. I definitely want to hear your stories. I'd like to read some follower stories as an episode in the future. That would be pretty cool. It's always, I believe my followers more than I believe Reddit sometimes, because Reddit is a place for stories too. So
yeah, I mean, I write little short stories and stuff, and I've often thought about making a fake Reddit account just to write my stories, just to get feedback from people. I promise I'm way better at writing a story as I am reading. I got ADHD, and my brain is working too fast, man.
Yeah.
And then I had a little elevation before we started this, so.
I definitely think it's a good idea, though. You should definitely put your stories on Reddit. Some of them are really good. Let's see. Do we want to go to the really good one, or do we want this one as well?
I'm not sure which this one is.
It's another 911, so I didn't read it to you earlier.
Yeah, we don't always discuss all the stories beforehand. We just kind of do our independent thing. We cover like the bases of what we're going to talk about.
Sometimes I want it to be a surprise for us too. I don't want to see what you found. I don't want you to know what I found. I want like genuine reactions here.
Yeah, we want the vibe of the show to kind of be like we're all just sitting around.
Yeah, just telling ghost stories, bouncing off.
Yeah, theories. Yeah. Going down rabbit holes.
Heck yeah, something you've experienced might connect with something I experienced, or something you think is going on might click with something I think is going on, and then we come up with a whole nother something's going on.
Yeah, we're never going to tell you you're crazy or anything like that. No.
Make you believe it. I'll make you believe what I believe. I'm not. Okay,
no, we're not going to make you believe.
I'm not going to make you believe.
We just talk about it, and then we see things from different angles, and that's what conversation is all about.
Most definitely.
Side quested too hard. I had a thought, it was fleeting. But yeah, 911 dispatchers, it's a difficult job. It's got to be hard.
I would thought that I could do it, but then I don't know. There's always, I don't know if it's the nosy in me or just the human nature of wanting again to know what happened, especially on the more difficult calls or the calls that involve children and whatnot. You're going to want to know, but then again, maybe I don't want to know at the same time. I don't want to hear the things that
you get emotionally attached and invested into it for sure. That's why I wanted to be an EMT. I wanted to be a paramedic. I would have been really good at it. I got into the medical field for a little while, but it was the children. I think that I couldn't handle that. There's certain ones that all of them would stick with me for sure. Yeah. But there were certain scenarios that I might, have to go out and do some anti-justice. So it's just best that I did not become an EMT for that reason.
Yeah. I thought about it too. Again, I don't think I could. The side of things, like open wounds and stuff like that, normally don't bother me. It's smells that get to me most of the time. So I kind of thought that would hold me back. But At the end of the day, I just don't think I could. I got too soft of a heart when it comes to relating to people and stuff. I don't think I could have handled having to deal with dying people or coming across those bad accidents where people lost.
It has to be hard to detach from it.
Yeah.
That's why it is really good that they offer a lot of counseling and stuff now. They offer a lot of help for those people. Yeah. That being said, it is the month of May, so if you or anybody you know is dealing with anything, when you start deep diving into some of this stuff, you can get sidetracked really hard, and maybe think some questionable things. So if you're having a problem, please speak out to someone. Contact someone. Do something. You always got to have good mental health, especially when you're dealing with this kind of stuff.
Most definitely. I think it takes a toll on people for sure. All right.
So this last story is going to be a good bit longer one.
You made it seem like it was going to be a pretty dope one, so we saved it for last. So hopefully we saved the best for last for you.
I really enjoyed it.
You really enjoyed it?
Yeah.
All right. This is from Gamal Frank, or Gamal Frank, GAMALFRANK, under r/no sleep. I've been a 911 dispatcher for 12 years, the last 7 on the graveyard shift. You think you've heard it all after that long. The drunks, the domestics, the panicked fumbling for words after a car crash. It all becomes kind of white noise, a rhythm of human misery you learn to navigate without letting it touch you. You have to. It's the only way to stay sane. My district is a sprawling, sleepy country that dies after 10 p.m. It's mostly soccer moms and retirees. The worst we usually get on a weekend is a noise complaint or a teenager who's had too much to drink at a bonfire. The job for me had become a cycle of caffeine, fluorescent lights, and the low, constant hum of a computer server. I was burned out, deeply, essentially tired, and a way sleep couldn't fix. The calls were just blips on the screen, voices to be processed, categorized, and dispatched. I was a human switchboard for other people's worst day. The first call came on a Tuesday about 3 months ago. It was 2:47 a.m., the deadest hour of the deadest night, and the line lit up on my console, but not in the usual way. It wasn't a cell call with a GPS ping or a landline with a registered address. It was just a raw signal, designated as unregistered VOIP.
VOIP, I think.
VOIP. Not unheard of, but rare. I clicked it open. 911, what is your emergency? Static. A thick, wet sound, like listening to the radio underwater. It crackled and popped, and underneath it, I could just barely make out a sound. A whisper. Can you hear me? It was a child's voice. A boy, I thought, maybe 7 or 8. He sounded like he was trying to talk without moving his lips. This is 911, I repeated, my voice a little louder, a little clearer. I can barely hear you. What is your emergency? The static swelled, almost swallowing his voice whole. He's back. The man in the back mask is back. A chill, cold and sharp, went down my spine. It was a professional chill, the one that tells you this is real. This isn't a prank. Okay, son, where are you? I need an address. Hurting mommy, the whisper came again. Breaking with a sob, the static sounded like a swarm, an angry insect now. Dad is asleep on the floor. He won't wake up. Son, I need you to tell me where you are. I can't help if I don't know where you are. My fingers were flying across the keyboards, trying to get a trace, but the system was kicking back errors. No location data, no subscriber info, nothing. The old house, he whispered, his voice fading, at the end of the road. Please. Then the line went dead. Not a click, not a hang-up. It just ceased to exist. The moment it was there, a line of static and terror, and the next it was just a dead channel. Even without an address, the old house was at the end of the road was enough. Out on the western edge of the county, there's a long, unpaved road that just sort of peters out in the woods. At the end of it, there's a one house. A big, derelict Victorian thing that's been empty for as long as anyone can remember. It was a local legend. The kind of place kids dare each other to spend the night in. I got a frog in my throat. Excuse me.
This is an old abandoned Victorian house.
Why is it always Victorian houses?
I don't know. Victoria did something. It's a Victoria's secret. Side quest.
Oh, that's a good one. I dispatched a patrol car. My senior officer, a guy who's been on the force since before I was born, came back over the radio about 15 minutes later. His voice was flat, laced with the kind of annoyance reserved for rookies and time wasters. Dispatch, car 12 here. The property is secure, no signs of forced entry. A place is boarded up tighter than a drum. There's nobody here. Hasn't been for 50 years by the looks of it. 10-4, car 12, I said, my own voice betraying none of my confusion. Are you sure? The caller was a child. He said his family was being attacked. There was a sigh over the radio. Listen, the dust on the porch is an inch thick. The boards on the windows are gray and rotted. If someone's in there, they're a ghost. We're clearing the call. Tell whoever's playing games to knock it off. I logged it in as unfounded and tried to put it out of my mind. A prank. A sophisticated one, maybe, using some kind of voice changer and a VIOP spoofer. Kids these days. I was too tired to care. A week later, at 2:47 a.m., the same line lit up. The same static. The same terrified, whispering voice. He's in the house. I can hear him walking. This time, I felt a knot of ice form my stomach. Son, is this the same caller from last week? A choked sob. He has the mask on. The one with the scary smile. Mommy's screaming. Faintly, through the storm of static, I thought I could hear it. A woman's scream, high and thin and distorted like the sound being played backwards. I'm sending help, I said, my voice tight. Stay on the line with me. Can you hide? In the closet, he whispered. He's coming up the stairs. I can hear his feet. The line went dead. I dispatched 2 cars this time. I told them it was a repeat call, possibly a hostage situation. I didn't want them to be complacent. They took it seriously. They set up a perimeter. They used a bullhorn. They broke down the front door. The result was the same. An empty house. Thick, undisturbed layers of dust on every surface, rotted floorboards, peeling wallpaper, the smell of decay and forgotten things. No footprints. No child. No man in a mask. No sign that a human being had set foot in that house in decades. My supervisor pulled me aside the next morning, a large, patient man who has a weary look of someone who's seen it all twice. He told me to drop it. It's a glitch, he said, not meeting my eye. Some kind of cross chatter from another jurisdiction or a recurring electric echo. Don't waste county resources on it. If that call comes in again, log it and move on. But I couldn't. The boy's voice was too real. The terror in it was primal. You can't fake that. Not even the best actor in the world could fake that sound of a child who thinks his mother is being murdered in the next room. The calls kept coming, every Tuesday, like clockwork. 2:47 a.m. Each call was a slightly different piece of the same horrible puzzle. He's hurting Daddy now. There's so much red. Mommy stopped screaming. He's looking for me. I can hear him opening doors. Every time I sent a car, every time the result was the same. The cops got angrier. I was the boy who cried wolf. My supervisor gave me a formal warning. My colleagues started looking at me funny, whispering when I walked by. They thought I was cracking up. Maybe I was. I started losing sleep. On my nights off, I'd find myself staring at the clock, my heart pounding as 2:47 a.m. approached. The silence was somehow worse than the calls. I became obsessed. During the day, instead of sleeping, I went to the county records office. I needed to know who owned the house. The paper trail was a mess. It had been sold and resold, owned by banks and holding companies. But I kept digging backwards through dusty ledgers and real property deeds. Finally, I found it. The last family to actually live there. A deed from 1968. A nice, happy family with a mom, a dad, and 2 kids. A boy and a girl. That wasn't enough. I started spending my days in the library's basement, scrolling through decades of local newspapers on a squeaky, ancient microfiche reader. Microfiche? Microfiche. Microfiche reader? You know what I'm talking about. The stale, papery smell of the archives filled my lungs. I was looking for anything related to the house, to that family. For weeks, I found nothing. Just property tax notices, and school honor rolls. And then I found it. An article from a cold, late autumn day in 1975. The headline was stark. Local families slain in apparent home invasion. My blood ran cold. I zoomed in. My hands trembled as I adjusted the focus knob. The picture was grainy, black and white. It was the house, the same steep gables and the same wide porch. Police cars were parked haphazardly on an overgrown lawn. I read the article, my heart hammering against my ribs. A husband, a wife, and their 10-year-old daughter found dead in their home. The cause of death was extensive. The article was vague, using phrases like brutal force trauma. The police report mentioned a possible intruder, a figure a neighbor had seen fleeing into the woods, described as only a tall man wearing some kind of pale, expressionless mask. But the last paragraph was what made me stop breathing. The family's 8-year-old son, it read, remains missing. Police found evidence he was hiding in an upstairs closet during the attack, but the boy has not been found. A statewide research is underway. Authorities have not ruled out the possibility that he was abducted by the assailant. The crime was never solved. The masked man was never found. The little boy was never seen again. I sat back in my chair, the library basement suddenly feeling like a tomb. The static, the whispers, the closet, the man in the mask. It wasn't a prank. It wasn't a glitch. Was I listening to a ghost? The next day at work, I felt broken. I walked into the dispatch center like a zombie. The hum of the servers sounded like a funeral drag. I couldn't keep it in anymore. I had to tell someone. I grabbed my supervisor and one of the oldest dispatchers, a woman who'd been there for 30 years, and I dragged them into the break room. I laid it all out. The calls, the timing, the empty house, the microfiche article. I showed them the copy I printed out, the grainy picture of the house, the headline. I expected them to think I was insane. I expected them to tell me to take a leave of absence. They didn't. They just looked at each other. It was a look I'd never seen before, of grim, tired resignation. My supervisor sighed, a heavy rattling sound, and rubbed his temples. The older dispatcher, she just stared at the article, her face pale. So it started again, she said, her voice barely a whisper. What do you mean, started again? I asked, my voice shaking. What is going on? My supervisor sat down heavily. Kid, he said, and he looked 100 years old. We need to tell you about the man you replaced. He told me the story, the dispatcher who had my seat before me. He had been a good man, sharp, dedicated. About a year before I was hired, he started getting strange. He was obsessed with a specific address, the old house at the end of the road. He kept sending cars out there, insisting there was a child in trouble. The patrols always came back empty. He started pulling old files, spending his days off at the library. He became withdrawn, paranoid. He claimed he was getting calls no one else could hear. We checked the logs, my supervisor said. His voice was low and serious. The system never registered the calls he said he was taking. He pulled the audio recorders from his console. There was nothing on them but dead air. We thought he was having a breakdown. Stress of the job, My blood turned to ice water. Sorry, I got cotton mouth all day.
Cotton mouth.
I need some water. My blood turned to ice water. The system, it doesn't log the calls for me either. They just show up on the screen and then they disappear. They don't go into the call history. The older dispatcher nodded slowly. We know. It's the same. He told us what the calls were about. A little boy, a man in a mask. I felt like I was going to be sick. What happened to him? I whispered, though I already knew the answer. One night, the supervisor continued, his eyes fixed on the linoleum floor. He took a call. We saw him on the console, talking, his face ashened. He was typing a report, then he just stopped. He stood up, grabbed his jacket and his keys, and walked out without a word. The call was still active on his screen, but none of us could hear anything on it. We just saw the open line. Where did he go? He drove out to the house. His car was found parked on the road the next morning. Engine was cold. Doors were locked. He was gone. The silence in the room was absolute. We searched, the old dispatcher said, her voice shaking. The police did a grid search of the entire woods. Dogs, helicopters, the whole 9 yards. They went through the house from the attic to the cellar. They found nothing. No sign of a struggle, no footprints, no him. He just vanished, wiped off the face of the earth. I stared at them, my mind struggling to process what they were telling me. Why? Why didn't you warn me? I stammered. How could we? My supervisor shot back, his voice rising with frustration that had been clearly festering for years. Hey, new guy, come aboard. By the way, this console might be haunted, and the last guy who sat here disappeared. Don't worry about it. You'd have thought we were crazy. He thought he was crazy. We thought he was crazy. Until you came in here today with that same damn story. He leaned forward, his eyes locking onto mine. This is what you're going to do. The next time the line rings, you don't answer it. If you answer it by mistake, you hang up immediately. You do not talk to him. You do not engage. You terminate the call, and you clear the line. That's an order. Do you understand me? For the next few weeks, I ghosted myself. I did my job on autopilot. Every sound, every flicker on the screen made me jump. I dreaded Tuesday nights. I drank so much coffee I could feel my heart racing in my chest just to stay sharp, to stay vigilant. I thought about quitting. I thought about just walking out and never coming back. But where would I go? Then last night, it happened. It was 2:45 a.m. I was staring at the clock, my knuckles white from gripping the edge of my desk. The minutes ticked by like hours. 2:46. My mouth was dry. My heart was a drum solo in my ears. 2:47. The line lit up. The unregistered VoIP. It felt like a physical blow. I flinched back in my chair. My training, my instincts, every fiber of my being screamed at me to answer it. There was a child in trouble. That was the job. But I remember the pale, haunting face of my supervisor, the story of the man who had vanished. You terminate the call. I let it ring. Once. Twice. The flashing light on the console seemed to sear into my retinas, but my hand hovered over the button, trembling. I just couldn't ignore it. I had to answer it. I had to. I clicked the button. 911, what is your... The static was a roar, louder than it had ever been. It was a physical presence in my ear, a wall of noise. And through it, the boy's voice came, not whispering this time, but screaming. It was raw, ragged, sound of pure agony and terror. He's got me! He's got me! Please! He's taking me! Please, sir! Don't let him take me! Help me! The sound ripped through my professional detachment and tore right into my soul. There it was. The climax. The moment the boy was taken, replaying for all eternity. My hand flew to the keyboard to dispatch a car. A purely reflex action born of years of training. But I stopped. My fingers froze on the key. He's gone. This already happened. It's not real. The boy was sobbing now, his screams turning into choked gasps. Please, please, you promised. You said you'd send help. Don't leave me. I felt tears welling up in my eyes. I was a 911 dispatcher. My job was to send help, and I was going to sit here and listen to a child be abducted or murdered and do nothing. I'm sorry, I whispered, my voice thick. I'm so sorry. I reached for the terminate button on my screen. My finger was a millimeter from the glass. This was it. I was choosing to save myself. I was choosing to let him go. And then the screaming stopped. It wasn't a fade out. It was an abrupt cut. As if a switch had been flipped. The roar of the static stopped to a slow, sinister hum. The line was still open. Silence. My heart was in my throat. Did I do it? Then the new sound came through the headset. It wasn't the boy. It was a man's voice. A whisper. Just as terrified as the child's had been, but older. Hoarser. It was distorted by the same underwater static, the same swarm of electronic insects. It was a voice trying to push its way through an impossible distance, through time itself. And it was a voice I felt deep in my bones. I should have recognized from an old staff photo in the hallway. The whisper was faint, but utterly terrifyingly clear. He's here. I froze, my fingers hovering over the screen. The voice was ragged, desperate, broken. He sees you through the line. He's looking right at you. A cold dread, so absolute and profound, it felt like death itself washed over me. I slowly, involuntarily, looked up from my console, across the darkened dispatch center towards the plate glass windows, and looked out into the night. There was nothing there but the reflection of my own terrified face in the glass, my skin pale in the glow of the monitors. The whispering in my ear continued, a final, chilling plea from a place beyond hope. Please, get me out of here. That was a long one.
I told you, it was long, man.
It was good.
It is a good story, man.
Whether that's true or not, whoever wrote this, bravo.
Yeah.
Round of applause for you, sir. That was nice.
That was an excellent story. It got me. I started reading into it, and I was like, man, it just got me. I was like, we definitely got to cover this. Because I only posted like 4 months ago. But yeah, the detail, the writing, it was very excellent. It gives you the creeps. It makes you wonder.
Definitely makes you wonder. It is one of those stories that could it be true? Is it a story? Because there are plenty of stories out there of 911 dispatchers getting these types of calls.
Right. You can call it an urban legend. You can call it whatever you want. So many accounts in different small towns, even some large cities and everything. There's so many of it. I think that shines a light on some truth behind it.
Oh, yeah.
Some of them have to be real, in my opinion.
Most definitely. There's no way that these people are having the same accounts. Whether they be different in certain ways, it's something is the same. Whether there's nobody living in the house, the address no longer exists, or what. There's something there in it with all of it.
It's really strange that these two different men, the only thing that they share is that they had the common space and the job.
Yeah.
And they both had the same encounter, but nobody else has had it.
Do you think it's possible that like an event like that could haunt the lines?
Again, that goes back to my theory. I don't necessarily know about haunting of lines. I don't know how I feel on, like, as far as ghosts or entities and stuff like that. I think there are too many options out there. Is it a possibility that something that traumatic could get stuck in time and just replay itself? Sure. I think that is a possibility.
I definitely feel like places can definitely hold traumatic events, especially. murders, wars, whatever,
Right.
are stamped into time. The calls are what's the strangest part for me. I'm not saying they're not real, but I don't know how that residual, I don't know, maybe just some of the most traumatic events can just stain everything.
I've opened my mind to a lot of things in the last few years, and I think that places really do hold energies because, like, everything is living. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Trees and everything like that is living, and everything gives off an energy. And I think that if a terrible traumatic event happened, then that energy stays locked away, and then you continue to build other traumatic events, or if someone that already had a similar traumatic experience in life is now in that place, they would be more affected or more attuned to that energy.
Yeah. That reminds me of an episode I want to do about traumatic events and possible demonic entities using these traumatic events to do things. I saw that, like, it was the basis of, the last Conjuring movie is how it just worked its way down back to the family. So that always, it struck with me, and it's always stuck with me. It's like, maybe that is the case. Certain traumatic events, that's what the haunting is, but that's not what, is trying to get to these people. There's something behind the haunting that's using this traumatic event to terrorize the families in these houses, to weaken their resolve and do what they do. If it's the fear that terrorizes them, whatever. We can't side quest onto that because we have to do a whole episode on it. So we will put a plug on that and we will come back to it. I can go on all night on that one.
Yeah, it's definitely something that I agree with, like in what we were talking about with the energies and whatnot. Yeah. I think that supernatural things definitely reside in places like this. So we used to live in a house that was haunted, and it's been in my family for a while. I had a lot of experiences in that house. I had a lot of issues with mental illness and a lot of things that I was dealing with personally in that house. I can't blame all of it on the house, but
I think it definitely fueled it, fed off of it.
Since leaving that house, I don't have a lot of the issues, and I don't have a lot of the feelings. I don't have a lot of the things that I had before, and I haven't had those issues. I think that it still has a connection to a person in my family, and it has kind of a grip or an attachment on that person, because they were the one that found the house, and for whatever reason they refused to get rid of it. But there's a lot of creepy things about the house. That's probably many other stories that you hear about my experiences.
We might have to do a whole mini episode on that one, because again, I lived in the house. We have our best friends lived in the house with us for a year. They have stories too, so I'm pretty sure.
Me and my sister lived in the house, so we've had many encounters.
I don't know, does what's his face? I don't want to say his name. But I don't know
Chef?
Yeah.
No.
Does he have any stories?
Nah, I don't think so. He always felt uncomfortable. I didn't tell him anything, and he told me.
Did he live in the frog?
Yeah, he did. The most haunted part of the house.
Right? That's where they all live, I swear to God.
They like the attics and stuff, and what made it worse, I don't know if you know what a frog is, a formal room over garage. Sometimes they have weird angles and stuff, so that adds to it. There's really small doors. The small doors are creepy.
We're just conditioned through the horror movies, I feel, to be scared of these spaces, so I think that also probably feeds it too. You have that fear already of it, so it just makes it work. That's where they choose to live, because that's where everybody feels the most schemed out. Yeah.
And they get to hide in the corners and in the dark shadows and stuff, because everything you keep lights on and you keep everything illuminated in the main house, but in the parts you don't really go into, that's why closets are kind of creepy.
I think that's why the house's electricity bill was always so high.
Oh man, there's 1.5 million things with that house.
Okay, guys, we've talked your ear off long enough, so
rambled a
I
little
wanted
bit.
to Again, state that if you work in healthcare, emergency services, law enforcement, or the military, 1, thank you. And 2, what is something you experienced that you still can't explain? I want to hear it all. So please email me, leave it in the comments, DM us on all socials, however you get a hold of us. I want to hear your stories, please.
And if you guys resonate with what we're doing here, just remember to like, share, follow. It helps us,
Yes.
so we can reach out to other people that are like-minded or like to deep dive into some of the side quests that we do here.
Yeah. All right, guys. Until next time.
Once again, Cosmo and Foxy,
Love you.
we love you.
Remember,
Question everything.
bye, guys.